Hey, good morning. It's Tom Jordan. Nice to have you. Thank you for your time for this edition of Tom Jordan Live. We're going to do something special today because, as a politician, a representative this morning told me these are wild times. He told me that this morning. So we're going to go through a few headlines this morning and a bit of an informative version of this edition of Tom Jordan Live today, as the Trump transition administration is underway and moving pretty quickly. Also, some things happening pretty rapidly in the political realm in the state of Michigan as well. So before I get to those, just a reminder, I want to hear from you today. Chime in. I'd like you to comment. You can go long if you like today. You can ask me some questions if you like as well. Just go into the comments section wherever you're watching. If it's YouTube, if it's X, if it's Facebook, let me know. Just a reminder also, this podcast is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Also, the very best way that you can help us, help Tom Jordan Live, is subscribe to our podcast, click the notification bell, watch the content, and share the content to as many people as you deem fit. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, let's start with this. Liz Cheney now. House Republicans are targeting her, Liz Cheney, with federal criminal referral, and there's good reason for this. It's a bombshell development. House Republicans have referred the former Wyoming Congresswoman, Liz Cheney, for a federal criminal investigation citing alleged witness tampering during her tenure as the vice chair of the disbanded January 6 Select Committee. The referral comes after an interim report, which was led by Representative Barry Loudermilk, uncovered some evidence suggesting that Liz Cheney engaged in covert communications. I have no doubt that this occurred, but who am I? I don't have all the evidence here. So these are allegations at this point, but walking through this at the time, I thought she's doing this in such a wrong and biased way as to delegitimize not only Congress, but the judicial system itself. Because remember, she referred all of this investigation over to the Department of Justice. Anyway, she allegedly engaged in covert communications with somebody named Cassidy Hutchinson, who was a key committee witness in this. And she was trying to cover it up using this encrypted Signal app in order to do it. So that's witness tampering, and that is a federal crime. And the report also alleges that Cheney bypassed Hutchinson's attorney. You're not supposed to do that. The attorney's name is Stefan Passantino, steering her to change legal counsel, like get a different attorney, before delivering the explosive testimony about Donald Trump's behavior on January 6. Hutchinson's subsequent claims, ranging from Trump attempting to commandeer the presidential limousine, which was not true. The witnesses that were there said that is totally false. But that was part of the January 6th Select Committee investigation, that Donald Trump, they're claiming that Donald Trump leaped into the front seat and grabbed the steering wheel and tried to steer the limousine, the presidential limousine, to go to the Capitol instead of back to the White House. It was ridiculous. Allegedly endorsing chance to hang Mike Pence. And this is all this stuff that was coming out that wasn't verified. It may have been steered by Liz Cheney herself. And they were immediately contradicted by Secret Service agents and other witnesses there, which were not taken into account by the January 6th Select Committee. So Republicans here are arguing that Liz Cheney's actions violated federal witness tampering statutes, pointing to 18 USC 1512. That would be a statute for all you attorneys watching right now. You probably are familiar with it. Loudermilk's report highlights that Hutchinson's dramatic narrative, the shift in her narrative, only occurred after Liz Cheney's alleged intervention, calling her testimony both sensationalized and fabricated. And the evidence shows both of those things were the case. The latter being the most grievous, if you ever want to say it. But fabrication is not good to do when you're testifying under oath before Congress. Liz Cheney, of course, fired back on Blue Sky, dismissing the allegations as a malicious assault on the truth. She's very familiar with malicious assaults on the truth, by the way. Yet the findings have reinvigorated the whole criticism of the January 6th Select Committee, with Loudermilk's report calling its operations illegally established and driven by political vengeance. So the Justice Department in this, of course, they've not yet announced its next steps into these this Jack Smith there, into all of these allegations. But we're watching that closely here on Tom Jordan Live. I want to point out to someone who I think is a hero amongst the Democrats in the state of Michigan, a hero within the Democratic Party. Her name is Karen Whitsett. I've spoken to her before. Other bold, that's her right there on the screen. She has stuck to her guns and her convictions. And I've told her, I said, I respect you because you stick to your convictions regardless of partisan pressure against you. So there's a lot of Democratic, discord as a result now of her, and it's leaving Michigan's House stalled, and the Republicans are standing firm. And Karen Whitsett understands what's happening in the House of Representatives in the state of Michigan is completely unethical. So now the Michigan House Democrats are facing a legislative logjam, as Representative Karen Whitsett there, the Democrat from Detroit. She's joining Republicans in refusing to attend today's session here on Wednesday, and is putting in jeopardy the Democratic Party's ability to pass all their radical far-left bills in the final days of their majority, because she understands these are radical. They're not consistent with the historicity of the Democratic Party. So Karen Whitsett's decision adds a whole lot of pressure to an already fractious lame duck session, and Republicans are protesting the stalled votes on tipped wages and paid sick leave laws, which are going to ruin business in the state of Michigan. They announced that they would boycott the session as well. So with Whitsett's absence, Republicans' absence, Democrats fall one vote short of the 56 needed for a majority, which stalls now over 50 bills, including expanded public records laws and critical spending measures as well. So Whitsett, who demands votes on a road funding plan, water affordability measures, and public safety trust fund legislation, things that really matter, lambasted the House Speaker Joe Tate. She says that Joe Tate, the Democratic leader of the House, is a failed leader. And she says, basically, I'm staying home for my constituents. I'm not going to engage in this partisan hackery, essentially, is what I'm paraphrasing. And she says she's not going to vote on garbage bills that hurt our community. She's right. Those bills hurt Michiganders. She's like, I'm not doing it. It's not right. The only people that benefit are those who are way up in the power echelon. So Joe Tate, he was armed with authority to compel attendance. He hesitated to escalate the tension. He says, we're here to do a job, he stated, dismissing Republican protests as political gamemanship is what he's saying. Yet Whitsett's public criticism underscores divisions within the Democratic caucus. And a lot of questions about, leadership during the pivotal legislative moment here right before Christmas. So with time running out, the drama highlighting right now the deeper fractures in the political landscape in Lansing, the state capital of Michigan. I think voters are kind of wondering now who's truly fighting for Michigan families. I think Karen Whitsett is one of them. I don't agree with a lot of her policies, but I do agree with the fact that she was, she is a pro-choice individual, but she is totally opposed to the radical policies of the Democratic Party that would hurt women, would not give them informed consent, would not tell them the risks of the surgical procedure they're about to undergo if they're having an abortion, and would not require sanitary conditions in these abortion clinics around the state of Michigan. She's opposed to all those laws that Democrats have been pushing through at a very fast pace. Because while she supports abortion, she doesn't support hurting women in the abortion procedure. So anyway, Karen Whitsett sitting out, which stalls all of this radical legislation. So in that respect, she is a hero in my book amongst the Democratic Party. Karen Whitsett, thank you so much. Let's talk about the pushback in the U.S. Senate against the Electoral College. Senate Democrats are trying to abolish the Electoral College, which would threaten state representation and make states totally illegitimate, irrelevant in the presidential elections. And it's a bold move that could unravel the very fabric of America's constitutional republic. The Senate Democrats are reviving their crusade to abolish the Electoral College, and is spearheaded by Senators Brian Schatz, a Democrat out of Hawaii, Dick Durbin, Democrat out of Illinois, and Peter Welch, a Democrat out of Vermont. And the effort frames the Electoral College as undemocratic. Really, it's been in place almost since the founding of this country in order to protect individuals and civil liberties in individual states from federal government overreach and authoritarianism. So how is that undemocratic? It's got its constitutional role in balancing power among states and safeguarding against the tyranny of the majority. So anyway, critics are arguing the proposal ignores the voices of smaller states, rural voters, individuals. It would consolidate power in all the urban strongholds like California and New York, and abolishing the Electoral College will destabilize the elections, and they would silence vast swaths of the country. People who don't understand that this has been the argument for a long time. It sounds like it's not fair. Well, if they won the popular vote, they should win the Electoral College as well, and that's unfair. It's undemocratic. That is I'm sorry that we are naive in this country because we failed to teach civics correctly in this country. And there is a very good, valid reason for the Electoral College. I learned this when I was young, too, because I had the same questions. I thought, well, why do we have an Electoral College? Just get rid of it, because the popular vote, the majority should decide who's the president. Well, yeah, in concept, that's true, but the majority can also be a tyranny. And that's why the founders of this country framed the Constitution in this way, to protect you, the person, the individual, and to protect me. There's a guy named Trent England of a group called Save Our States. And he was saying, listen, that without this constitutional safeguard, presidential elections would be dictated by just a handful of states in this country. It would leave rural, less populous regions effectively voiceless, and it would give one party majority power. And that's what they truly want here. They want a tyranny, essentially. And, ironically, Schatz, who I mentioned earlier from Hawaii, and Welch from Vermont, their own states would lose the most. But, they're federal government elites, so maybe they don't really care about their states. Favoring a national popular vote, that resolution would hand control of the presidency to the elites in Chicago and San Francisco and New York City. And it would undermine the balance of power, which is enshrined in the Constitution. And that's what they would like to do. They don't like the separation of powers. They don't like the balance. They like it all concentrated in one area, and preferably one branch of government, so they can rule, essentially. Alexander Hamilton, I did some research on him. And, you look at the Federalist. He wrote Federalist number 68. And this deals with this issue. And he foresaw these kinds of dangers out there, which emphasize the Electoral College's role in preventing corruption, really, and ensuring national unity. Yet Democrats are frustrated by Electoral College losses in 2000 and 2016. And they seem very intent ever since then on dismantling a very vital institution, regardless of the chaos that might unleash. All right, we want to invite you to come and talk with me. I'll let you get your comments on some of the headlines around the country and around the state of Michigan, wherever you are. Give me a little comment in the comment section of where you're watching right now. When I talk about this stopgap bill that is being rushed now through Congress, the House of Representatives, as we're winding down the year and winding down this quarter and the budget year as well, and Congress is rushing to avoid this shutdown with a stopgap deal, and a lot of Republicans are not happy about this. And congressional leaders they revealed this last-minute deal yesterday to avert the government shutdown, which would extend federal funding until March of 2025. This happens all the time. Another stopgap. Just kick the can down the road for another 3 months. We'll deal with it again. Then we'll do another stopgap, and it's got to stop. This stopgap does, and this legislation that was revealed yesterday pairs this stopgap measure with a $110.4 billion supplemental aid package, which would target, disaster relief and some economic woes amongst farmers. And it's aimed at providing stability. I think the intent is good, but the bill ignited a whole lot of criticism within Republican ranks with accusations of, slipping these unrelated provisions into this huge bill. It's got like 1,500 pages in this text. So the package includes $29 billion for FEMA's disaster relief fund, 21 billion or so in farm aid, $8 billion for highway repairs, along with a contentious $10 billion in aid for agricultural assistance. And the speaker, House Speaker Mike Johnson, he insists the bill addresses like the immediate crises that we're undergoing right now. But some conservatives label this again as a veiled omnibus package, and that means just bringing everything together at once instead of going through each segment of the budget. There's like 12 different segments, going through each one, passing them individually, rather than these monstrous packages that they try to get through in order to, kick it down the road and do whatever they want to do after that. It's no different, some say, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know she's very controversial, a Republican out of Georgia, but she said, listen, this is no different than the pork-laden spending packages we have vowed to stop, and that's why we have a majority. And she says our farmers and disaster victims deserve standalone relief, not political games. So deal with them specifically is what she's saying here. Don't slip these things into these massive packages. That's been the problem. That's why things get hidden, and that's why our budget deficit seems to continually grow. And with Republicans in the majority, this is a big issue that they need to stop, these massive budget deficits and the growing debt. And that's the point of Elon Musk, by the way, and Vivek Ramaswamy and Doge coming in is, the Department of Government Efficiency is to streamline the government and get out a lot of this pork, do things in a different way that truly makes it more financially feasible and efficient and economically responsible. So there's adding to that, all that tension there. There's this bill that it includes provisions on drone regulation and redevelopment of the RFK Memorial Stadium site, which of course is prompting these allegations of prioritizing pet projects over fiscal responsibility. So you can point out those little things that they want to fund, making deals, with these various, maybe local municipalities or to garner votes for certain members of Congress. If you vote for this, I'll give you some money for RFK Stadium, that kind of thing. That's the deal making that happens behind closed doors. So despite the internal Republican rifts, Speaker Johnson might need some Democratic support to push through the deal. And by the way, the deadline is this Friday. Today's Wednesday. And critics are warning that, boy, this sets the stage for tougher battles on spending and the debt ceiling in March. And, is the GOP going to have the resolve to do that? Because they have a very slim majority. A lot of concern about that. All right. I want to talk about another candidate for the GOP chair in the state of Michigan. Her name is Meshawn Maddock. She's launched her bid officially now for the chair of the Michigan GOP. All right, so who's in the race now? Well, we got Meshawn Maddock. That's her right there. She's a staunch Trump ally. She's a conservative activist. She declared her candidacy to lead the Michigan Republican Party. She's entering a pretty competitive field where State Senator Jim Runstad, who's been on my program a number of times, he's already announced his bid. He thinks he's got the fundraising prowess and the relationships throughout the state to make for a growing, successful, and unified Republican Party in the state. Meshawn Maddock feels the same way about herself. And we talk about the timing and the context of here. I mean, the next GOP chair will be chosen pretty soon here. This is coming up in February following Pete Hoekstra's appointment as President-elect Donald Trump's ambassador to Canada. So he's taken that job, which now leaves this vacancy in the state of Michigan. And so here's why Meshawn Maddock says that she matters. We had Jim Runstad on to talk about why he thinks he's the best candidate. Maddock believes she is a better candidate because she's a vocal Trump supporter. Trump seems to have her back on this, and she's promised to be the biggest attack dog against Governor Gretchen Whitmer and the Lansing Democrats, who arguably are on the path of ruining the state of Michigan. So Meshawn Maddock has been an outspoken critic against Governor Gretchen Whitmer and these radical Democrats in the House and Senate. So she promises to continue to do that, and that will bolster, she believes, the Republican coalitions in these traditionally Democrat-leaning areas to set the stage for the big victories in 2026. Her goal is now to they've flipped the House. Now they want to flip back the state Senate to Republican majority and the governor's office, that there'll be a governor in office to right the wrongs that they say this current iteration of the Democratic Party in the state of Michigan has wreaked upon the state of Michigan. In the meantime, she says she'll focus on keeping the momentum from Republicans' 2024 wins, keep that going, Donald Trump's Michigan victory, and the GOP reclaiming the state's House. Again, she's this longtime Donald Trump ally. Her husband is Matt Maddock. He's also a Republican, and he's in the state House right now, which is about to retake the majority as well. And they're very, strong advocates. I mean, they go out and they actively campaign for a variety of strong conservative politicians in the state, and I think even, at the federal level as well. So it's a pretty bold move to have Meshawn Maddock. She was the co-chair of the Republican Party a couple years back, so she's got that experience as well. She was with, I think it was Ron Weiser, who was University of Michigan regent, I believe he is, and he was helping to lead the Republican Party as well. But the Republican Party in the state of Michigan has had it's been very fractious and contentious, and a lot of problems within the Republican Party. But again, there's a lot of Republicans within the Democratic Party. So if there's a time to steer the ship, to right the ship, this is probably the time to do it. So we got two big names: Meshawn Maddock, big name, and then we got Jim Runstad, also a big name. So, Meshawn Maddock, she says she promises to energize support for, Michigan House Republicans and, importantly, Donald Trump throughout the state. And, Donald Trump, even Gretchen Whitmer now is saying, yeah, I believe that Donald Trump really cares about the state of Michigan. This is so different, isn't it, from, 4 years ago, the rhetoric about Donald Trump and how he hated Michigan, from Governor Whitmer saying he's a big threat, and, all these mistruths, untruths about Donald Trump, that he somehow led the kidnapping plot against Gretchen Whitmer to take her out. And it was just bogus. And people see right through it now. So even Gretchen Whitmer is coming to Donald Trump's side and say, yeah, I support Donald Trump in a sense. She didn't say those words specifically, but she did say that he cares about Michigan and that she wants to work with the president-elect. She hasn't said that before. So I think even Democrats are realizing, yeah, our character assassination of the guy is no longer working. So let's right the ship here and get on board with what he's doing, because actually what he's doing right now looks pretty good for the citizens of this great country and citizens of the great state of Michigan. So back to Meshawn Maddock. She sees the next 2 years as really critical, preparation for flipping the Michigan Senate and reclaiming the governor's office in 2026. She's got some opportunities to do that. Who is going to run for governor and the Republican Party for 2026? It'll be very interesting. I think Tudor Dixon is going to be now at the top of that ticket because she was, the nominee back in 2022. I don't think James Craig is going to jump back in. I think Perry Johnson will step in again. He's got the money to do that, a self-made billionaire essentially, so he can fund his own campaign and do it that way. But it will be interesting to see who jumps in. Who knows? I mean, there's been names bandied about. I won't say them because there's no evidence right now that they're even interested in doing this. But it'll be fun to find out. We know that on the Democratic side, Jocelyn Benson's going to be, she's a staunch supporter of this far left Democratic Party in the state of Michigan. So she'll be representing them, the far leftists, the radicals and whatnot. Mike Duggan is trying to paint himself as more of a down the middle of the road Democrat. He left the Democratic Party. He's running now as an independent. So he's trying to portray himself as an independently minded, nonpartisan individual. He is heavily partisan. He is heavily Democrat, and he's been a staunch objector to the Republicans who are in office right now. He says he works across the aisle. He works, he's got both sides, but he does not like the Republicans. So, but if he wants to work with them, good for him. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see. Meshawn Maddock, Jim Runstad, who wins the seat in February. Meshawn Maddock, she pledges to grow Republican influence in regions that are typically overlooked, like, recognizing the victories. They came not just from the base, but by engaging communities that are frustrated by Democrat policies. So we'll see how that goes here. All right. We're going to get your comments here in just a moment. If you want to chime in, make sure you do that. First, I want to talk about my friends over Executive Wealth Management. Good people over there, and I've been friends with them for quite some time. And you know Bert Herzog, he comes on the program, and other members of the team at Executive Wealth Management. But they understand that wealth is very complex. It is, but with the right partner, it doesn't have to be so complex. Executive Wealth Management, they're dedicated to simplifying the complexities of managing your wealth by offering integrated solutions. They do a lot of things there at Executive Wealth Management that cover every aspect of your financial life. Yes, they deal with retirement and financial planning to investment management. Of course, they do that, but also even tax strategies and legal strategies as well. So if you got legal questions or tax questions, that's what they handle too at Executive Wealth Management. They bring it all together so you can focus on what matters most, living your life with confidence. Don't worry about that stuff. They'll take care of it for you. Their team of experts works seamlessly across these key areas to ensure your financial future is secure and that it's well managed by them. They take the stress out of wealth management by providing a comprehensive, personalized approach that's tailored to your unique needs. That's Executive Wealth Management. Discover how they can simplify your financial journey. Visit EWMadvisors.com. That's EWMadvisors.com and learn more about their integrated wealth management solutions. Executive Wealth Management. Wealth is complex and they simplify it. Thank you for them. All right. Let's see if we got anybody that wants to comment right now. Cameron Harris is watching that. And we have Orlando Hodges is back. The dying Democratic demagoguery is desperate to sideline the 2024 election. I think recall campaigns is more immediate than primarying these thugs. Yeah, recall would be good. Some of these people shouldn't be in office. They are so far to the left. And Orlando, you're right. It's always good to hear from you, Orlando, by the way. Thank you for that. But the most of Michigan, they don't want them in office. And they know that. So they know they're leaving office. But before they leave, they're trying to ram through these radical leftist bills that even Karen Witt said, a Democrat, knows. And she flat out said, these are policies that are going to hurt our communities. So why are you doing this? I'm sitting this out. So you no longer have a quorum. You cannot even hold a session because there aren't enough people in. First of all, you don't have the majority because Karen Witt said was that one vote majority. One member majority. So she's out. So there's no majority now. So they can't hold a quorum. But there's a lot of Republicans who have also gotten out of there. They're not going to vote. There's not enough members right now for the Democrats to ram through the remainder of these radical policies. They had over 180 bills that might be now up to 200 that they've been pushing through. And so I think there's 50 left they wanted to get through this week. This is the end of it. And if Karen Witt sits out, she's sitting out today. We know that. So good for her. And if she doesn't come back, they're not going to get any more through. So anyway, yeah, they're very irresponsible, Orlando. So thanks for that comment. And you're right on about that. Let's see if we have time for another comment here. Carol F. Hi, Carol. How are you? I'm hesitant to celebrate Dems' support of Trump after all the vile, despicable hatred spewed at conservatives. Does that go away that fast? Carol, you're right. No, it doesn't go away that fast. If they truly hated Donald Trump as much as they were making it out to be for so many years, would they so quickly switch on a dime? And can you trust that if they did? What was the difference? Did they suddenly come to the realization that all those things are not true? Or did they realize it's more political expedient for them to come on board? It's better for them and for them to hold on to their power and to pretend like they're middle of the road. I agree with you. I think these people have already played their hand. And like, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, no, I don't trust her. If she wants to prove that she now truly does support Donald Trump, she will veto every single bill that comes to her desk from this radical Senate and radical House in the state of Michigan. And she will say, you know what? The people of Michigan have spoken. They want Donald Trump's policies. And frankly, I now agree with Donald Trump's policy, so I'm not going to sign these into law. If she doesn't do that, then I don't trust her. Her words the other day are just words. That's all they are. Her actions speak louder than words, because her words have said time and again that when she was running in 2018, she said very passionately that she's going to work across the aisle. She's proven, when she worked with Governor Rick Snyder, that she was the Senate Majority Leader, minority leader, Senate Minority Leader at the time when Rick Snyder was the governor, and that she worked with him hand in hand on very important issues. That wasn't true for the most part. But it also wasn't true that she was going to do that, because when she took office, she became a dictator. She became a tyrant, and she refused, even after pleas from the Republican majority in the House and the Senate, to work with her on how to navigate through COVID. She said, not a chance. I'm not going to take any of your idea. All your ideas are dumb. So I'm not even going to consider them plans. They had all these plans they were proposing to her. She said, they haven't given me one plan. They gave her multiple plans, but she didn't like their plans, so she didn't call them plans. And she went with what she wanted to do by emergency order, executive authority, time and again, even when it was unconstitutional. And by the time the Supreme Court caught up with her to say what you're doing right now is against the Constitution, you're violating individual civil liberties in the state, you're forcing people to stay at home. They cannot go outside. They cannot go to work. They cannot go to school. That is above your purview. That's above your pay grade. In fact, no one has a pay grade that says you can do that. And that's wrong for you to do. So they overturned all her executive orders. But by that time, several months had already gone by, and she was able to switch her powers, transfer her powers over to the health department. So now they, at that point, started implementing these. They were acting as the tyrant. Doesn't matter if it's an individual or a bureaucratic agency like the Health and Human Services Agency in the state of Michigan. They did the exact same thing that she wanted them to do. And so they did the same thing. They shut down the state, wouldn't allow people to work, wouldn't allow people to go to school. And then the union stepped in, and she was all supportive of that. So Governor Whitmer has authoritarian tendencies, and she used the old tried and true method of pretending it was for everyone else's safety before your safety, because you don't know what to do for your own safety. I've decided to bring in my own experts to tell you what to do for your own safety, and you have to do it, or I'll sick Dana Nessel on you, the Attorney General of the state. And that's exactly what she did. So, yeah, unless she could turn that around and admit her mistakes, that she was absolutely wrong, and that she does support Trump, not just in word, but by action, then Carol, I agree with you. I don't think she's someone to trust, nor is the entirety of the Democratic Party. Just a few members like Karen Whitsett, I trust her. Don't agree with her a lot of things, but at least I trust her, to be honest. All right, let's bring up another one here. Jim Chakowski is back. Hello, Jim. How are you? Thank you, Ms. Whitsett, for your courage to stand firm. Right on. Karen Whitsett, again, I applaud you. If you don't know who Karen Whitsett is, and I mentioned her, her stance in pushing back against these radical abortion policies, she believes in abortion, which I disagree with, but at least she also believes in safe surgical facilities, which the Democrat parties don't want in the state of Michigan. They want it to be totally unsanitary because they're getting rid of all the requirements, the sanitary requirements for a surgical room, an operation room. But she's also the one that she was near death. She almost died of COVID. And she was not allowed to try anything that might have helped her. So she was probably maybe a day or so away from death in the hospital. And she begged to try something, just try hydroxychloroquine, which at that time, the Democratic Party politicians were saying that this is an incredibly dangerous drug. And it's like taking basically an aquarium, what do you call it? Like the chlorine, whatever it is to clean out your aquarium water. It's like drinking a whole thing of that. It will kill you, is what they're essentially saying. It was a total lie. That was not the truth. We've been using hydroxychloroquine for decades in this country. Same with ivermectin, by the way. But anyway, they came out because it wasn't a very expensive shot. They mandated, or you were not allowed to take that, but she begged to take it, and she took it, and she was better like within a couple of days. It completely changed the trajectory of her illness. It saved her life. And she was blown away because of that decision. She was censured by her own party, that the Democratic Party, because she took medicine for her own health condition, they censored her because she was encouraged to take it by Donald Trump. And she thanked Donald Trump for the encouragement because her life was saved. Doesn't mean that everyone's life was going to be saved, but why not try a treatment that has been shown to work in some instances? And she did. And she says it saved her life. And for that, she's been not ousted, but she's been heavily criticized and disciplined by her own party for common sense decisions that everyone can make about their own health care, right? Right, Democrats? Anyway, so that was one of many things that Karen Whitsett has done, which she thought was the best thing to do in her own eyes, her own heart, her own convictions, and she stuck to her guns. And as a result, she was discredited by her own party, but she was given a lot more respect by those outside the Democratic Party, including Republicans, including independents, and just common sense individuals to say, well, good for her. She's standing firm, and she's doing it again right now. So Karen Whitsett, yes, thank you very much. Appreciate what you're doing. All right, let's bring up another comment. I appreciate you chiming in this morning. Harry Sakalian. Hi, Harry. Hi, Tom. I think the reason both parties like the pork-laden bills is it gives everyone cover, not being called out on individual bills. Thanks, Harry Sakalian. Yeah, I agree with that. And the ones that are calling for these individual bills to be voted upon, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're being labeled extremists. When this is absolutely the best way to deal with the budget. Is take it, one by one. And the Republicans had agreed to do that like a year and a half ago. They said, this is how we're going to do it from here on out. Now that we got House Speaker Mike Johnson, we got the Republican majority, this is how we are going to operate. And they have not done it yet. And hopefully they will, now that they got the Senate who will agree with them on this. Don't cave. I know you got a slim majority in the House now, but you've got the majority. And this, you say, is one of the reasons why, because you want to deal with the overspending. And all these things also, by the way, lead to inflation. So let's be responsible, fiscally conservative. So if you mean it, do it. And even it means you're not going to get that bridge in your little district that you've been promising your constituents. So you're not going to get the library named after you or whatever it is you want for your own namesake. Put that aside and do what's best for the country and best for the budget. Get rid of all the pork in this. Stop hiding it by allowing your party and the House, the members, the legislative members, to vote individually, not on an omnibus massive monstrosity, but individual, 12 sections of the budget, go through each 12 and vote separately on them. That would be the best way to do it. All right, I think we got one more, and then we're going to have to say so long, but let's bring up one more comment here. Lee Santiago. Hi, welcome back, Lee. These Dems are crazy and lazy. And they should have tried to work their crazy policies through earlier, LOL. Yeah, if they really wanted to do it. Tom, what should we do to support Karen Whitsett before January 1st and January 20th? That's a good question. I would say write her, call her office, and just even say, if you're a Republican, I'm a Republican, but I so respect Karen Whitsett. I reached out to her office. I did the same thing. I said, I appreciate Karen Whitsett sticking to her convictions and to her conscience and doing what's best in her view for the people that she represents in her district in Detroit. She is a Detroit representative. And what's best for her, her constituency is not what the Democratic Party is doing right now. They say they care about the individuals in places like Detroit. They don't, because their representative says these are going to hurt them, and they're not listening. So Karen Whitsett, Representative Whitsett, thank you for standing firm. And you got a lot of people supporting you for doing this, for being brave and courageous. And when you think about it overall in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it seems like it does take a lot of courage, because you're going to get a lot. I'm just speaking to all of us now. It seems like it takes a lot of courage, because you know that people are going to say they hate you. They're going to say horrible things about you. They'll probably give you some death threats and all that kind of stuff. But in the whole scheme, the grand scheme of things, when you realize how many people actually support you and who you're protecting, it doesn't take that much courage to understand what's right, the right thing to do. You just ignore all of that noise that's out there and look straight ahead. straight and narrow. Walk down that path. Remember why you wanted to serve in the first place. Your government was to represent the people in your own community. Stick to that and you'll be just fine. And Carol Winsett is doing that. So good job. Appreciate it very much. Remember, you can always watch us daily here. It's 9 a.m. We're streaming live here on X, Facebook, and YouTube. And the podcast is also available on Apple Podcast and Spotify. And if you'd like to help us out on Patreon, you can do that as well. It's Tom Jordan Live on Patreon. We have some small subscription level. It's a paid subscription level at that place. It's very minimal. It's like $5 a month. But that helps us out more than you realize. And also, the biggest way you can help is free. Just subscribe to our podcast and share them with as many people as you see fit, friends and foe alike. We'd really appreciate that very much. Until next time, God bless you. We'll see you back here tomorrow.